you for that update there. What do you think about new theme parks?
I'm all for theme parks, yeah. Okay. I haven't been in a while, so I'm overdue.
Okay, Anthony's a theme park guy. We can put that to the test. Future of supply chain?
That's right. I heard Ohio has, what is it called?
Sydney would be really upset with me right now, but I am blanking on the name. But it is like one of the best places to go ride roller coasters. We're going to put that to the test. Yes. Sid, I'm sorry that I can't remember this right now. Whatever. Right now, we're going to welcome in our next live guest. We've got Adam Perlmutter joining us from Metafora to talk a little bit about building a bigger brokerage. Adam, thanks for being here, and let's dig right into it.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, Adam, and it's great to have you on. And so when we're looking at really being able to build a bigger and better brokerage, we're going to be some of the first things that you look at on a headline item basis.
Yeah, when building a brokerage or trying to grow a brokerage, actually, we see a lot of missteps along the way. It's a hard business. So probably the most common thing that we see is not having a plan in place, taking an approach, sort of like a figure it out mentality. And the most common areas we see around that are really scattered across the business: sales, tech, capacity, strategy, every aspect of the business.
Totally understandable. And it's sometimes brokers or brokerages walk into their growth they're like growth initiatives without necessarily a plan, right? Like they're just like, okay, we're going to throw a lot of money at either new systems or hire new employees and just hope that we see that organic growth coming out of this initiative without a roadmap, right? And that strategy doesn't always work. You might see it's kind of like a fad diet, right? Like you might see the initial increase and then it goes back to where you started.
Totally. Yeah, and it goes back to that figure it out mentality. What we see, especially pertaining to sales, is like having a defined go-to-market strategy, and you want to stick to the core services that you provide. So if you do dry van, temp control, don't go chasing after a flatbed opportunity. As you alluded to with the roadmap, especially pertaining to technology, have a roadmap with sequencing of initiatives and timelines. You want to revisit that regularly to align with your business goals, and know what tools are out there and available to you, and evaluate them based on what makes sense for your business. Don't get distracted by functionality that may be cool to watch in a demo, but it's not necessarily applicable to the business. Also, implementation is key there.
And Adam, I think that's great. So we're talking about how to really mitigate some of these risks, because what are going to be some, for example, things that you can do to really kind of mitigate risk around capacity? Because I can only imagine when we're looking to grow your brokerage, you're looking to just bring on as many people as you can and really just grow your book of business as fast as possible.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about this. Capacity strategy is what I'm most passionate about, coming from the carrier side of the business. So when it comes to capacity strategy, you want to make a real intentional effort to prospect strategic partners where you run high volume lanes. And you want to find carriers who match the lanes that you run and have a need for those lanes in their network. What you don't want to do is just post up all of your loads, book a bunch of transactional carriers, and then a bunch of people would say, like, we have working relationships, but they're actually just made up of transactional carriers who have called in over the years. So there's a time and a place for those types of carriers, but the core capacity network should be made up of carriers who need the lanes that you're running.
Oftentimes, I think to really get into that type of capacity strategy, you have to have your brokers, your talent on the floor who is alongside that mindset. But I think you find a lot of times the mentality in a brokerage is, okay, let me just post up this load for the cheapest rate that I can get. That way I'm making the highest margin, right? How do you get that mindset switch to happen? Does that come from a leadership standpoint first? Is it that just the talent that you're attracting, you really got to make sure that they're on board with that same type of strategy?
It starts with training, for sure. It sets your people up for success. It drives the right behaviors. You want to let people know on the floor that it's not just about getting that quick book, as you mentioned. It's more long-term incentives. You want to take a look at compensation, for example. Make sure that you're driving the right behaviors and that are contributing to long-term business goals, and not just like the instant gratification of booking a quick load, moving on to the next one. You want to build those long-term working relationships that are mutually beneficial.
And Adam, when you're looking at really kind of being able to scale, what are some tips that you have around that? Because I can only imagine, you have your foundation, it's solid, but it has to be something that you can really kind of grow off of, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really like nearshoring as a solution to scale the team. It really provides you the flexibility to act as an accelerator, to grow the team at a very competitive cost. In the last 5 or so years, there have been nearshoring solutions that have popped up that have specialty niche areas specifically in transportation and logistics. So it's not just acting as a call center, but really an extension of your team. So in a volatile market, it gives you the flexibility to scale up or scale down depending on what you need.
I think that's really fascinating. You think of partners like Lean Solutions, who of course you guys work with super closely there at Metafora, to be kind of that nearshoring partner, right? And almost not necessarily an outsource of your business, but it is that extension arm that's there when you need it. How do you know when it's the right time to start looking for those partnerships? Or if you need to maybe focus a little bit more on your talent and development in-house before you look outside?
That's a great question. So I'd say you want to have that plan, going back to the top, making sure that you have that roadmap of initiatives and in advance to try to be as proactive as possible when you're going to look to grow, when you're going to look to scale, and have those KPIs in front of you that act as scaling indicators. So as you onboard the next couple customers and you anticipate hitting a certain revenue inflection point, that's when you want to hit the switch, perhaps start to scale the team with a nearshoring solution, but you want to try to be as proactive as possible. I know it's tough to predict the market, but forecasting, revisiting frequently, staying close to your roadmap, all are tools that you can use to help make that decision.
And Adam, I'm glad you mentioned around different markets. So when you're looking at really being able to scale and grow, do you have different approaches depending on what kind of business cycle we're in?
Yeah, the market's ever changing. And so as a third party, as a brokerage specifically, that's typically where brokerages make their money at, when they can educate their clients in a changing market to let them know, hey, here's what's out there, here's what it's looking like, here are capacity conditions, and we can help you in this way. Again, you want to stay true to your plan, to your roadmap. And you want to just do the right thing. You want to create those long-lasting relationships. And whether it's a bullish market or a deflationary market, you should be able to stick to your plan and execute.
So going the opposite way, if you're a brokerage and maybe you bit off a little bit more than you can chew, you grew really fast when you were in an up market and we're in a deflationary period now, and you're sitting here and you're like, dang it, we overcommitted, we hired too many people, we brought on too many new customers, and you need to walk it back. What type of strategy advice do you have when, of course, nobody likes to say, hey, we got to pull back and pull out of this a little bit, but what type of strategy do you have to maintain your relationships while still being honest about what type of service you can provide as a brokerage, knowing that maybe they overextended themselves and they just can't do it anymore?
Yeah, the number one service offering for brokerage is non-asset basis communication. You have to be transparent with how things are, how you're buying, what sort of trends you're seeing in the marketplace, and that's what builds trust. So again, if it's deflationary, if times are slow, you just want to be transparent with that communication and really build trust with your clients, and that will help get you through really any sort of market conditions.
And Adam, when looking internally, what are some things to keep in mind when really looking to not only grow but retain, because that's also going to be a big factor as well. I can only imagine training and different types of transparencies and goals can really be important here.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Training is key. A quick shameless plug here, check out Sync Logistics training. We've been talking about it through the last few segments with you guys, but really key to upscale your people, set a higher ceiling for them, and that really helps with retention if they know that you're making the investment into their growth. And also, it's a smart move to get help from experts in areas where you're not confident. Generally, in brokerages, people come in with a bit of a sales tilt or a capacity tilt, and no one's really an expert in all facets of the business. So it's a good move to get help from people or businesses like Metafora if you're not confident in a certain area of your business.
And Adam, speaking of shameless plugs, you guys have a podcast that you put out at Metafora on a regular basis. Talk to people a little bit about where to go to find that.
That's right. It's called the Extra Mile Podcast. You can check us out. We drop episodes monthly where we cover topics such as this, among a bunch of other important trending things in the industry. So feel free to check that out. We're on everywhere you can find your regular podcasts.
Awesome, Adam. We'll have to check that out. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. Been great having you on.
Thanks so much. Take care, guys.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Freight Waves Now, including Mike Bowden-Distel's here for his weekly community segment. So don't go away.